Welcome to today's Explainer. So today we're completely deconstructing a really popular self-help narrative. You absolutely know the one I'm talking about. It's this idea that extreme sacrifice, totally giving up your sleep and just pushing yourself to the absolute breaking point is the only real path to success. Well, today we're tearing that myth down. And honestly, what we're about to uncover here might completely change how you approach your personal and professional goals forever.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the confusion between grit and discipline.
So normally, grit is sold to us as something incredibly close to obsession, right? It's the person who gives absolutely everything, completely sacrificing their physical health, their personal relationships, and any semblance of life balance just to hit a goal. I mean, it is basically a fast track straight to burnout. But true discipline, that is entirely different. Discipline is knowing exactly what you want and advancing consistently, just one single step at a time. It's inherently sustainable. Basically, one path destroys you and the other builds you up over time.
And this brings us to the real danger of idolizing the obsessed. Take Elon Musk, for example. He's frequently cited as the ultimate model of grit. And yes, obviously it's a level of extraordinary dedication. But we can't really call it healthy, can we? The thing is, you can't just transform an ordinary person into the next Elon Musk by having them read a few biographies. People who operate at that extreme level usually possess a very, very rare combination of talent, totally unusual circumstances, and frankly, a natural obsession. It's almost like winning the lottery. You can't just teach it. And when we try to force that level of obsessive grit onto ourselves, it almost always leads directly to exhaustion, not some kind of replicable success.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, the power of sustainable growth. The absolutely crucial point to understand here is the actual timeline of true progress. Really great results happen on a scale that we barely even perceive day to day. We're talking months, years, and decades. Think of a growing tree in your backyard. When you look at it today, or even tomorrow, it appears completely motionless, right? But it is actually continuously growing. True, sustainable progress happens exactly like this. It's practically invisible in the short term, but it compounds incredibly over the long haul.
To put that into perspective and make it practical, if you're at the gym and you lift 10 kilos today, sustainable growth means just trying 11 kilos tomorrow, not jumping to 40. Or, hey, if you usually study for an hour, maybe you just add 15 extra minutes. You definitely don't recklessly jump straight into a grueling 5-hour study session. This tiny amount of discomfort is enough for you to evolve, but it doesn't wreck your ability to show up and do it all over again tomorrow.
Constancy is worth more than a heroic effort followed by surrender. I want you to really let that sink in, because it is the absolute heart of the whole matter. Look, a massive, obsessive burst of energy might feel super productive in the moment, for sure. But if it destroys your capacity to continue the next day, it is completely worthless compared to small, daily consistency. The real decisive factor in long-term success isn't grit, it's just discipline.
But okay, if discipline is really that simple, why do so many of us struggle with it? Well, ask yourself this. Why does society value some passions and totally ignore others? It's a pretty provocative thought, isn't it? Often, our lack of progress isn't actually about a lack of internal discipline at all, but rather the crushing pressure of external expectations.
Let's unpack that a bit more in Section 3, the weight of social expectations.
There is a really fascinating flaw in the idea that passion and perseverance only count when they're directed towards something society deems quote-unquote important. Think about video games, tabletop RPGs, or playing music in a garage band. If someone dedicates thousands of hours to leveling up in a game, that requires massive perseverance. So you see, the problem has never been the individual's capacity to persist. The real issue is that society arbitrarily decides to value certain passions while completely devaluing others.
And sadly, this societal pressure often trickles right down into our own homes. Think about a parent who tells their kid they'll be grounded if they quit the soccer team. By forcing a specific path, they completely remove the child's own agency. Imposing a path produces obedience, not genuine motivation. A truly supportive environment doesn't dictate someone's future. It observes their natural interests and creates the conditions for them to develop their own unique potential.
Okay, moving on to Section 4, the 3 profiles of action.
So, according to this framework, there are 3 distinct ways people tend to pursue their goals. First up, we have the disciplined. This is the person who knows what they want, advances with steady consistency, and builds a really solid, balanced trajectory. Think of the student who just quietly does their homework every day, finishes college, and grows, not out of obsession, but simply out of habit. Next is the obsessed. Now, this profile achieves extraordinary results precisely because they go way, way beyond what is actually healthy. Sometimes they reach the absolute pinnacle of success, but other times they completely destroy themselves along the way. And finally, we have the aimless. Now, it's important to note this person isn't necessarily lazy. They lack direction and discipline, usually because they never found something that truly makes sense for their life, very often because they were forced to dedicate themselves to a socially approved path they never actually wanted in the first place.
Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, the true measure of success. Because at the end of the day, happiness isn't just about achieving traditional, mainstream success. True happiness really requires three things: living a balanced life, being loved and understood, and most importantly, following a path that is genuinely yours. You have to be faithful to the original text of your own life, so to speak. It's a tough reality that what we love isn't always going to be valued by society. You might be an incredibly talented painter in a small town where no one buys art, or a genius programmer living hundreds of miles from a major tech hub. That's just part of reality. But even so, it is worth so much more to grow in a way that makes sense to you than to spend your entire life endlessly chasing a goal chosen by someone else. True discipline has to serve your own objectives, not just the desires of others.
The true victory does not belong to the most obsessed. It belongs to those who manage to take a small step beyond comfort every day for many years. I think this perfectly encapsulates everything we've uncovered in this explainer today. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Are you burning yourself out right now, chasing a toxic myth of obsession? Or are you quietly, gently, and consistently building the sustainable discipline required to grow your own tree? Thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope you take that one small, healthy step forward after this. See you next time.